My name is Patrick McCabe. I've always had terrible teeth. Not just could use some braces terrible, I mean genuinely, embarrassingly bad. Because of that, and a handful of other reasons I'd rather not get into, I didn't get my wisdom teeth removed until well after college. Most people handle that in high school. I handled it at an age where I was old enough to feel foolish about it. The recovery was brutal. The pain was relentless enough that sleeping through the night became impossible. I developed a system, set an alarm every 3 hours, wake up, cycle between my 2 prescribed medications, drift back into something that barely qualified as sleep, over and over, night after night. My body eventually stopped knowing the difference between awake and asleep. I stopped feeling like myself. I stopped feeling human. One night during that first week, somewhere around 4 a.m., I woke from my medication and simply couldn't fall back under. The AC had died. My room was suffocating. After 10 minutes of tossing and turning, I gave up and opened my bedroom window, letting whatever weak breeze existed drift in. It helped a little. Not enough. I lay there staring at the ceiling, begging my body to surrender to exhaustion. That's when I heard it. A scratching sound, dry and deliberate, like claws dragging across something rough. I told myself it was nothing, a branch, the wind. My sleep-deprived brain manufacturing noise from silence. But the sound didn't stop. It moved. Slowly, steadily, it crept directly overhead, across the roof above my bedroom, then faded toward the far end of the house. My family lives on the edge of the woods. Raccoons, squirrels, the occasional possum, none of that was unusual. But my dad had patched the attic twice already that year, and I knew he'd lose it if something burrowed in again. I wasn't going to sleep anyway. I threw off the covers, grabbed my dad's heavy-duty flashlight from the garage, and slipped out the back door into the warm dark. I started at the low rear section of the roof, right above my window, and swept the beam slowly upward. Nothing. I worked my way around the house. The flashlight cut across shingles and gutters and shadow. Still nothing. I was almost ready to give up when something moved at the corner of my beam. I swung the light toward it, and I screamed, standing on my own lawn at 4 a.m., flashlight trembling in my hand. I stared up at the roof and could not make my brain accept what my eyes were seeing. A person, not an animal, not a shadow playing tricks on a sleep-deprived mind. A fully grown human being, completely naked, frozen in the beam of my flashlight like a deer caught in headlights, just standing there on the shingles, still, silent, watching me. I screamed. I couldn't stop it. It ripped out of me before I had any control over it. The moment the sound left my throat, the figure exploded into movement. They were fast. Unnaturally, horrifyingly fast. Bare feet on loose shingles, and they moved like the roof was flat pavement, scrambling back toward the lower section above my bedroom window. I sprinted around the house to cut them off, screaming for my dad, not even thinking about what I'd actually do if I caught up to them. I rounded the corner just in time to watch them jump. No hesitation. No preparation. They simply launched themselves off the roof and hit the concrete paver stones below with a sickening thud that I felt in my chest. I was certain I was about to watch someone die in my backyard. No one survives a drop like that without shattering something. They got up immediately. Before I could process that, they were already charging at me. The tackle hit like a freight train. We went down hard onto the pavers, and then Hans' fingers really were clawing at my face, going for my eyes. I kicked and screamed and twisted but couldn't break free. He was grunting, spitting, impossibly strong for his size. I felt warm blood running down my face and genuinely believed, in that moment, that I was going to die in my own backyard. Then the back door burst open. My dad came out cursing like a man possessed and physically ripped the figure off me. For one brief moment, I saw the attacker clearly drenched in my blood, wild-eyed, expressionless before he wrenched himself free, bolted to the fence, scaled it in one fluid motion, and vanished into the darkness of the woods. My dad and I stood there in silence. The only sound left was distant footsteps crashing through the trees, growing fainter, until there was nothing at all. Then he looked at my face and said we needed to go. Now, the hospital visit was a blur of bright lights, antiseptic, and concerned faces, shots for infections, Shots for diseases paperwork stitches. My dad nearly ran 2 red lights getting me there. The doctors couldn't believe what they were looking at. The one small mercy my mouth was untouched. After everything I'd been through with those teeth, at least I was spared that. The police came and went. They told us the woods were too vast to search and suggested security cameras like that was some profound insight. My mom cried more than anyone when she found out. She was the one who finally upgraded our home security because some threats apparently require a mother's particular brand of terrified determination to actually get addressed. A few months after the roof incident, life had more or less returned to normal. The stitches healed. The nightmares faded. My mom's new security cameras blinked quietly from every corner of the house like little electronic sentinels, and that helped. Mostly. Our house has always drawn comments from visitors, friends, delivery drivers, the occasional date. I'd snuck in while my parents were traveling. Nearly everyone who walked up to our front door said some version of the same thing. This place is weird. And honestly, they weren't wrong. The most unusual feature is the entrance. Instead of a standard porch leading directly to a front door, ours has a covered outdoor hallway, open on the sides, roofed overhead, that you walk through before reaching the actual door. 2 walls of the house flank you on either side as you approach. It sounds stranger than it looks, but it looks plenty strange. My bedroom sits on the first floor, right beside that entrance hallway. From the window next to my bed, I can see anyone standing at the front door, but they'd have their back to me. I'd exploited that angle since childhood, peeking out to identify visitors before deciding whether to answer. It was my little hidden advantage. I never imagined it would one day save me from something far worse than an unwanted guest. My parents left for a week at the start of summer. I invited my girlfriend Anna over immediately. She'd met my parents plenty of times, so it wasn't exactly scandalous. Just the kind of uncomplicated freedom that feels enormous when you're young. And the house is yours for a week. We kept it low-key. Movie nights, wine, lazy mornings by the pool. Neither of us needed much more than that. The second night, just past midnight, I heard something outside. A scraping, dragging sound, coming from the driveway unmistakably. One of my dad's trash cans being shoved around. I told Anna to stay put and went to investigate. The exterior lights barely reached the driveway, so I grabbed my phone flashlight and stepped outside. One can was overturned, garbage scattered across the pavement. Whatever had done it was already gone. I cleaned up the mess, moved all the cans into the garage, locked everything up, and went back to bed feeling almost foolish for how cautious I'd been. Anna was nearly asleep when I climbed back in beside her. I settled in, closed my eyes, and felt the comfortable pull of exhaustion finally taking hold. Then came the tapping. Gentle, rhythmic, metal on glass. I opened my eyes and listened. It wasn't stopping. And it wasn't inside the room. Slowly, I pulled back the curtain and peered through the window toward the front door. In the thin ambient light, I could make out the silhouette of a man standing at the entrance, his back to me, tapping one finger lightly against the door glass, over and over, patient, unhurried, like he had all night. I watched him for a long moment, my breath shallow, trying to pick out any detail I could. Then he began to turn around. I'm a single man in my mid-30s. I live alone in a small 1-story house, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, living room, kitchen, tiny garage. No pets, no roommates, no one to answer to. I work for myself on my own schedule, which means I'm most productive at ungodly hours of the night and sleep well into the afternoon. Most people would call that irresponsible. I call it freedom. One night, past 3 a.m., I was deep in work at my desk. Room completely dark except for my monitor. Dead silent. The kind of focused stillness where the whole world shrinks down to just you and whatever you're doing. Then the hallway erupted. Footsteps pounding toward my bedroom door. Heavy, fast, deliberate. Then 3 massive bangs. Not knocking. Not a gentle tap like I'd heard before. These were the kind of bangs that shake the door in its frame. The kind a battering ram makes. I shot up so fast I knocked my monitor off the desk entirely. I stood there frozen, staring at the door, waiting for it to burst open, waiting for whoever was on the other side to finish what they'd started. Nothing happened. No voice. No second round of banging. Not even the sound of breathing. Just absolute silence pressing in from every direction. I don't know how long I stood there. Long enough that my legs started shaking. Then I heard footsteps retreating back down the hall. Something snapped in me. I grabbed an empty beer bottle off the desk, threw the door open, and sprinted through the house screaming like a man who had completely lost it. Every room. Every corner. Every closet. Empty. All of it. Every door locked. Every window sealed. No sign of forced entry. No sign of anyone. The police came, searched, shrugged, and left. One officer suggested I'd probably overlooked an unlocked window. I hadn't. I've never had an explanation for that night. No intruder, no evidence, no logical way in or out. Just those footsteps, those bangs, and then nothing. Some questions don't get answered. They just stay with you, permanently lodged somewhere between memory and fear, making you think twice every time the house goes quiet. And my house goes quiet a lot.